gaudy, so gaudy, so gaudy. Gaudy stats, gaudy stats, gaudy stats. Good God, that's gaudy.
Yeah, consent.
Got
Did
it.
you consent?
Consent to being recorded.
Oh, excellent. Age
Although
of consent.
I
Age of
have been,
consent. New order. Age of consent.
it's a great
Like that
album.
tune.
Jesus, I took a really long road trip recently, and I made a playlist out of all my liked songs, and the amount of MGMT and
Oh
New
yeah,
Order
babe.
on there was
Yeah,
kind of my wife was like, another one, and
yeah,
like, oh yeah, babe.
oh, yeah,
I
babe.
gotta get that shirt. That's a
We
slick
just
shirt.
we just got back from a trip in New England, and
Oh
I was
yeah,
hiking. I was hiking in Acadia,
Boston.
and I was wondering. I was wearing this shirt in Acadia on a cold day on a hike out on the rocks, and I was wondering, am I the first person to ever wear an MGMT shirt in Acadia National Park? I had that thought, and I wasn't sure what the answer. Acadia is beautiful, though. Beautiful
Oh
scenery up there.
man, it's somewhere I've been wanting to go for a really long time. I was
Yeah.
a little jealous when I talked to my cuz um, Osbo, and he was telling me you were there, and you told me you were going to be around there.
Yeah, yeah,
And
we had a good time.
nice
He let me sample some really exquisite New England IPAs, stuff that I can't get.
viscosy
Yeah, like
IPAs.
so lots of haze.
Oh yeah,
Do you want pure haze at 4 o'clock in the afternoon? What's that? You don't? You do? Oh, here it is. What's the like?
yeah.
And no,
Makes you
I'm not
feel
saying
real
that. I'm not
dehydrated.
saying that against him. I'm more saying that against IPAs. Like,
Oh no, I mean
what's the ABV? A 12.8. Okay, cool.
I mean it's like,
No, they're delicious though. I love them. I kid.
yeah. That's the way it is in Portland. When I used to live in Portland, it was like, you go to a bar and there'd be 12 beers on this little chalkboard, and 10 of them would be the bitterest,
Yeah.
most strong
Hmm.
IPAs you could possibly imagine. And then there'd be like two other beers, a Hefeweizen and a Pilsner or something. And
Yeah.
it's be like,
Yeah.
this is IPA country, it's like,
Yeah.
and the hazy ones though, I do like, because I have a soft spot for, for the lack of a better word, the fruity beers. I do
Oh yeah.
enjoy.
You're a
I do
big
enjoy.
sours guy, right?
Yeah, I love sours. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah, and I like the Belgian styles
Oh
and
yeah.
all those. So I took
Had
me
some
a
of that
while.
up in Portland. I was
Oh
back in
yeah, babe.
Portland. Yeah, it was great.
Oh yeah, get some of that. I mean, Portland has it all in terms of beers. They have a great. It's a great beer town, but
Yeah.
you know,
Sorry,
I
I meant Portland, Maine just now, not Portland, Oregon. Though I trust Portland, Oregon is
yeah,
good as well.
oh, Portland, Maine has great beers too. I mean,
Yeah, it was
they
good.
both. But yeah, I guess it's a when in Rome type situation for
Yeah. I
nor'easter.
do like the beers where it's like, yeah, you get like, and there, I mean, everybody at this point has made the same joke. I feel like the most ridiculous names for the IPA is like, do you want the shit kicker IPA? And then there's a stout on there, which is basically like alcoholic cream of wheat or oatmeal. Would you like this alcoholic oatmeal to drink? Well, it's 95 degrees. I was thinking maybe something, maybe like a pills. Well, that's not on the menu.
I've been getting deep into stouts, to nitro stouts. It's
Uh-huh.
become a thing. Like I I went through a phase where I was drinking Guinness like
Yeah.
crazy. I don't know what happened, but it just tastes like a milkshake to me. And
Yeah.
when it's cold outside, a little chilly, it's
The
nothing better than a
Irish,
nice frothy Guinness.
that Irish tradition.
Is it Irish? I can't do
Ooh.
it.
No,
Irish?
I can't really do it either.
McLeod? No,
Yeah.
that's Scotland. I'm thinking of Highlander, and that's McLeod. There can be
Yeah.
only one. No, I don't have the accent skills. Don't have it. Never
Don't do
did.
it. Don't do it. Okay.
Don't-
So
Don't do it.
why are we here? Such a good question. I ask myself that every time we record, but I think there are always good answers. And I think there's a good answer here, which is we are here to celebrate the Warriors dynasty, or dynasty as it is said in the
I prefer
United Kingdom.
Dynasty.
A dynasty. The Warriors dynasty. They've just completed their
Steph
fourth
Curry and
title. And
Draymond Green.
Stephen Curry, Draymond Green,
Klay
Klay
no,
Thompson.
Curry. Yes.
Yes. Klay Thompson. Oh, he's having a go. And Klay Thompson did have mini goes in Game 6. He
Yeah.
was not good in that closeout game, but I
Good
respected
on
how
defense.
much
He was good on
he was
defense.
just like, I'm shooting again. I'm shooting again. I'm shooting again. And he's earned the respect to do it. But I loved how, even though they were kicking Boston's ass, he had missed like 9 jumpers in a row. And he was just like, I'm going to keep going.
What was he,
And
5 for 20 or something? It was,
something like that.
I
And
mean,
it
it was,
really, it's respect for, from the French, from the team and the staff for his game. They're
yeah,
like, look, this guy has earned the right to keep firing until he gets hot. So, and
totally.
he was excellent before that. Okay, but let's zoom out for a second. So, a lot of the content I've consumed, Ben, which I assume is probably stuff that you may have consumed as well in the last week, it's been about praise for Steph Curry. It's been about the kind of way that this has sort of cemented his legacy. We have sort of this rather unexpected 4th title for the Warriors, if you take a broad view. There are two kind of points I wanted to make at the outset here, and we can kind of just go off of there, because I think everybody by now has mentioned Curry and the way that this is sort of, not that Curry needed validating, but that this has validated his career, getting that Finals MVP and
I think he kind of does, but please proceed. I have a take. I've been warming up on the stove this morning.
Yeah.
I want
Oh,
to
I love a
unfurl.
take. Yeah. Oh, yes. Needs to simmer a little more.
It's just right.
Yeah.
Just took a little
yeah,
ladle
we'll let it simmer a little more, but I do think two things I want to mention. One would be this is the Warriors' 4th title in 8 years, and it sort of got me thinking about, could this, if you think of this as a dynasty, which I mean, I think you have to when they have 6 finals appearances in 8 years, 4 championships. What do we really compare this to, or is there something to compare it to? So I had three things to potentially compare it to, and I kind of wanted to get your take on what was most comparable. So the first would be the Bulls. Now, look, the Bulls won 6. And so I don't mean to say that the Warriors are on the level of the Bulls just yet. The Bulls won 6 in 8 years. Mm-hmm. I only would make that comparison because you had those 2 years in between where Jordan was not playing. And so from the summer of 1993 to the summer of 1995, it was not inevitable that they'd come back and have a second three-peat, right? So that's the first one. You've got the Spurs having 5 titles over the course of about 15 years, and basically keeping the same core with Manu and Tim Duncan and Tony Parker, among others, same coach. In that sense, I feel like that's a little closer to what the Warriors have done, because Jordan had Pippen, but the cast around Jordan and Pippen really changed pretty dramatically between the early and the late 90s. The third one, and I have to be I want to speak in very hushed tones here. Okay, we don't need to necessarily let this out and let everybody know. So just let's everybody, let's bring the vibes down. Yeah, keep it down. Okay, guys. Shh. All right, we're in a good space. I'm not trying to turn this into like a really terrible ASMR channel. But so what I would say is the Patriots. Okay, now again, we don't need any fan feedback from whether the Patriots are or are not a dynasty. I think we can all agree that they are a dynasty. But the reason I would think of the Patriots would be, there was this period between their titles where it seemed like their run truly was probably over. Now, they made a couple Super Bowls, I get it, but I don't know that that there was a whole lot of consensus that they were going to get back to the mountaintop, especially get back to the mountaintop in terms of 3 more seasons. And obviously what Golden State has done is on a much more compressed level, because you had essentially these 2 seasons that were wiped out based on injury, and Klay being out and Steph being out for large stretches, and D'Angelo Russell makes a strange cameo appearance. You get Kelly Oubre in there to get some shots up. But you look ahead now, Ben, I feel like they could be the favorite of the West next year. And if you take a broad view of this, and if you assume, as I tend to do based on his game, if you assume that maybe Steph and Klay have several more years left in them, are we looking at a situation that could mirror the Brady Belichick Pats, in that they have these 3 titles in 02, 04, and 05, and then there's this window, and then they have 3 more titles together? Is this are we on the early part of that second, that kind of second act for this dynasty, right? It's a question worth asking. I'm wondering just from you whether you think any of those comparisons are fair, or maybe this needs to be viewed as more of kind of a standalone thing.
Yeah, that's a really interesting way to lay it out. I would probably say it's its own thing, just because, as you said, those 2 years of, the horrific, their injuries they have with Klay, it's been documented ad nauseum, and then Durant leaving, and then Steph, hurts his hand, breaks his hand, like 6 games into the season, and they just fall off a cliff, yields them the Wiseman pick.
Yep.
He's been on ice this whole time, basically. We had a little flash at the beginning that had me, I'd say, hot and bothered. I mean, he looked like super mobile, running around, maybe like shades of Giannis. By shades, I mean like, a really low in opacity shade, kind of like, he's like whatever below a homeless man's Giannis is,
right?
Whatever that is. It
Like
got me thinking,
like a non-alcoholic beer to an IPA, like an O'Doul's Giannis.
Yeah. So you could kind of see something there, like his mobility, and like he's supposed to be a very smart, cerebral guy that didn't totally translate in defense. But anyway, so they were kind of in no man's land for 2 years, and usually in most dynasties, there is kind of like a little bit of still, there's like some contention even in the years that they don't get to the finals or they don't make deep playoff runs. At least they're making the playoffs, getting knocked out whenever. I mean, there's been a lot of talk of Magic, and I think somebody said, I haven't verified these stats and I should, but I believe he went to 9 finals out of 12 years, something like that. So yeah, I mean,
I think that's right.
I think that's right. And he was always in the playoffs. They were always going deep. Sounds weird, but anyways, so Steph, and the Warriors, 6 out of 8 years they've been in the finals. It's pretty commendable, but it does feel like its own little thing because they had that 2-year hiatus, that dark period, and just this return to greatness feels unprecedented. Honestly, it's just pure joy. As a basketball fan, I think you experienced it as well. We were texting a little bit, but just seeing Klay come back, remembering how great he was. And I truly believe he's going to return to close to what he was next year. I think he's going to have like a couple of years. I can't see into the future. I try, I do little seances. I smoke a little herb, and I try to think about, what could happen in the future.
Read some tarot cards.
Yeah, exactly. I go into a dark room and I do things. And so I
put on a cape.
I do things. I don't know. Put on a robe. I light some candles.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I think he's going to return, honestly, to a pretty close facsimile to what he was before. And, you say that this could be the precipice. I would agree with you here's what I have to, I need to see more of Kuminga. I need to see more of Moody and Wiseman. I mean, Wiseman is like hanging over everything.
Yeah.
If he can be a DeAndre Ayton type, that level of impact or more, who knows what they could be. I mean, I think Looney, there's a good possibility he could leave because he's going to get probably a big offer from another team. Warriors have they're paying like $1 billion on their salary cap or something because all the repeater taxes is like
luxury
insane
tax
amount.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So they have to pay Poole, and they got to pay Gary Payton. And they also have Draymond coming up for an extension, and Curry's making crazy amounts of money.
Yeah.
So, and they're, these guys are all in their mid 30s, and Draymond, for his greatness in the last 2 games was reduced to like a track. He looked like tractor trailer out there.
Yeah, he wasn't good in the first 4 games.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would say game 2 he was like he didn't have great stats, but he was pretty good. And
That's
then
right. He was in Jalen Brown's
yeah,
head.
yeah, he kind of got in his head. And then game 3 he was just god awful. Game 4 he wasn't great, so Kerr took him out. Then he came back in and made some key plays. And then he was good the rest of the, he was really good the rest of the way. He was amazing in game 6. Like he
Closeout
was
game, he was like old Draymond.
yeah. So the question is, what are you going to get from Draymond the next 3 years? He's older. He's like 6'6", 6'7". His athleticism is waning. He doesn't appear to be like a workout warrior fitness type guy, a la, LeBron. He even stopped the parade and went and got some ice cream. I mean, this guy, I would have probably done the same thing. I mean, it was so fun to see the parade. We'll get into that later because I want to ask you about what you thought of the parade and everything. But
okay.
So I it's hard to predict. I think Klay will age into like a rich man's JJ Redick type probably. He still can get like white hot. I mean, he wasn't great in the playoffs, but I think I looked at the stats. I can't remember exactly. I think he shot just a little bit under 40% from 3 for the playoffs, which is still very, very good. And I think he shot around that for regular season, around 20 points per game. So that's like in his week. It's kind of like a little less than what maybe on his best year previously, but still very good. So in conclusion, I don't know if I totally think it's the precipice. I think if I had to bet, I would say they will not win the finals next year. They might not.
Okay.
I don't think they'll even make the finals because the Clippers coming back, Denver is going to be good. I just think and then Memphis. I think Memphis is going to be really good. Good point. Kind of overlook them sometimes. And as much as I enjoy, the Schadenfreude of the Lakers just self-combusting and Westbrook just in a sea of his own delusions, I really enjoy it, and just getting lost. He's just lost out to sea. And I enjoy that. I enjoy watching their downfall. I do think they're going to be better next year. I think something's going to happen. I mean, they're the Lakers. This is.
But are they going to be title contender good? Do you think? Because they'd have to go from missing the playoffs to.
Yeah, well, you have to also remember they're like half their roster was on 1-year deals, so half the roster is going to be gone. So you're probably right, but my point is just I'm not going to count them out completely.
That's if Phoenix will be in the mix, Dallas will be in the mix.
Phoenix, Dallas, Christian Wood, interesting pickup. He's a good fantasy player. I don't know if he's a good defender. I don't think he is, but he's like, you would think he's like a more athletic in this stage of his career than Porzingis. Porzingis was pretty athletic at the beginning of his career, but yeah, my point is there's a lot of other options. My headphones almost fell off. That's what happened there. There's a lot of options for the Warriors to go through. So I can't write them in pen as a contender.
No, I hear
next year and maybe years beyond. But
I'm a little surprised to hear you. I mean, I'm not saying I don't want to mischaracterize what you're saying. I don't think you're bearish on the Warriors, but I guess I'm a little more optimistic than you are maybe. And what's so interesting, I mean, I think I looked it up a couple days ago again, in a with a podcast that literally has stats in its name. It would help if one of the guys involved would actually have something open.
Yeah, this is bad.
I think I looked on the internet. I turned the crank on my hand cranked house-made small batch internet, and I think what it showed was that all the main guys, all sort of the core guys who played in those finals games are signed, I think, all through next year, I believe. But next summer they've really got a decision to make. But something that stood out to me, Ben, that you mentioned there was you mentioned this host of young players. Okay, Wiseman, Kuminga, Moody, among others. And what I find so interesting, and it's all contingent. Well, I was going to say, it's all contingent on how these sort of big three, like how they do age. And if their games don't age well, then obviously what I'm saying is not going to come to fruition.
Yeah.
But if they age gracefully, all those guys you mentioned are still guys they have in the pipeline, and yet none of them were the young guys that supplemented that core for this finals run. Jordan Poole, Gary Payton, Andrew
Yeah.
Wiggins, right? I mean, these are young players who really am I leaving somebody out there? Who's young?
Jordan Poole, Gary Payton,
Looney, I guess Kevon
Looney,
Looney.
who's technically young. He looks like he's
Yeah,
6
he
years
looks
old.
like he's 60. But it's just interesting because I do think they have all of these guys. Now the trick, of course, as you're alluding to, is, well, you got to pay them all, or if they want to be paid, they're not all going to stick around there on hometown deals. But I do think it is so. What was so part of the reason I'm optimistic about their ability, maybe not to win another finals necessarily, but I do. It would really surprise me if they don't make another deep run and make at least one more finals in the next
Mhm.
few years. Just is that the way that like so much of what they did against Boston did not overly depend on Steph and Klay and Draymond, right? And they had these periods
Yeah.
where Poole and Wiggins, I mean, like again, there's been like a Wiggins gush fest across the pod universe, I think.
So much
But like
gushing.
Wiggins was really freaking good and
Oh
like
man.
good out of nowhere. He
So
really
good.
kind of just like messed Tatum up in that game 6.
Yeah.
And it's like his perfect role to fit. And he's only what,
Oh yeah.
25, 26 years old. So I do think they have that they have that young talent that that is there to help the kind of core guys in their 30s, the old heads, age gracefully in the best scenario. And those guys we mentioned, they're filling the roles that people like um, Andre Iguodala and Sean Livingston
Yep.
and Harrison Barnes and maybe I mean Bogut to an extent, and guys like that did uh, the first time around. If you're thinking of that first era is basically 2015 to 2019. And of course you mentioned Durant too, and that's the other kind of weird thing. And part of what it seems like it does seem like without Durant in the picture, they're much more like the Spurs in terms of a dynasty that doesn't have much drama. You just never heard much about Ginobili and Duncan and Parker not getting along. There's a lot. I
Yeah.
mean, they literally made a 10-hour documentary on how the Bulls didn't get along. And to the extent that you would want to equate that dysfunction with what's happening in Golden State, you kind of have to center it around Durant. I mean, Durant clearly did not see eye to eye with Kerr always. He didn't really get along with Draymond. He really badly misplayed his hand, I think, as is well
Oh,
documented in terms of how he was going to be embraced in Golden State. And it seems like when he left, an incredible talent left, but also an incredible source of drama also left.
yeah.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
No, it makes total sense. And in Golden State, their system, I mean, it's been proven now that there's ability to plug and play guys like Jordan Poole, just the quick twitch stuff he does. He can get super hot. Like he was putting up, like 15 points in 14-minute type stat lines the last couple of games. Again, I don't have the stats in front of me. Once again.
But I mean, did you see the clip where he took the three, like checking directly into the game, and he took the three? I think it was in game 5 or game 4, and it was an air ball, and it cut to Kerr, and Kerr's just like shaking his head and muttering under his breath.
Yeah,
Um,
he's that kind of
but
player. I mean,
but that there is use in that. And did you notice, by the way, we're not tacticians here, but like the when the series really changed and it flipped in game 4, all of the Warriors coaching staff was telling them to play faster. Did you notice that? Like Kerr would say, "Get up
yeah,
the floor," because it's like
yep.
they wanted to go in the half court too much in those first 3 games. And once
Hmm.
they started running, it really looked like they. And again, I'm not gonna like get deep in X's and O's, but it seemed like they got the kind of ball movement and on switches, they got mismatches and they got guys open shots where they couldn't when they were just stuck in the half court. And I think part of the reason they were able to run like that without running themselves into the ground goes back to what we said. Like Jordan Poole's 23, right? Gary
Mm-hmm.
Payton is Gary Payton's actually older than I
He's
thought,
like
but
28, but he's
he's
got the
got a lot of
body of like a
spring.
19-year-old.
Yeah, for sure. Right. Wiggins obviously an incredibly durable player and still pretty young. So all those guys, those sort of young and fresh legs and playing fast, it was like when they started playing fast, the Celtics didn't really know what to do. They didn't have a counter to that.
Yeah, and the Celtics started playing fast, and then they started coughing the ball
Out
up
of control, yeah. Because
like crazy. Yeah,
none of the players on the Celtics can dribble the ball, which is
they're just
like
like soaking their hands in Crisco
it's
before
very
each game.
strange.
It was really weird. Yeah, it was weird. I think there's been a lot said about Tatum, the minutes, and the two-way stuff, how it like wore him out. I think some of that probably is true, but no, I mean you make a good point. Like this, they sped up. Man, you're kind of convincing me a little bit. I generally, in my heart of hearts, I hope the Warriors continue to win because I do enjoy the historical aspect and I like to watch them play. Like aesthetically, the sharing the ball, the moving without the ball, all that stuff. You know, the super long distance 3-pointers, all that stuff to me is aesthetically pleasing. And I don't understand people who are say like, oh, the threes are so annoying. It's like, can you understand how far away these people are? Like they're
Hmm.
just pulling up from like 5 feet beyond the 3-point line. Like that's incredible. Like that's amazing to watch.
Yeah,
And so yeah, I hope they continue to succeed. And I'm a Suns fan, but I really wanted to see that Suns Warriors series.
so did I.
We were robbed.
We were robbed.
I think maybe fortunately for me that the Suns, well, I was going to say they got beat by Warriors and it'd be kind of embarrassing, but what happened to them against the Mavs was more embarrassing than anything that could have happened against the Warriors.
Yeah.
That final game was just so sad and pathetic.
Do you think their
And
window has closed in the West?
oh yeah, I think so. Yeah. I mean,
I tend to agree.
I think that was their chance. I think there's a mental block with Chris Paul. It's just, Benny Armchair over here. I don't have a psychology degree. Although I did take a
Please
few psychology.
make that the title of the pod.
That'll be a segment.
Benny Armchair.
Oh, Benny Armchair. I mean,
Hey, it's Benny Armchair. Hey,
I took intro to psychology. I took psychology too, and then I just cut it off right there. I said, I'm an expert. I don't need to learn anything else.
I took one psych class 19 years ago.
So I think he's got a little bit of a block, and he just completely. I don't know what happened. I mean, people are saying he had COVID. I don't buy any of it. I think the public's appetite for his excuses has completely run its course, and no one's going to give him any benefit. No one's going to be like, oh yeah, he was hurt this time. It's just like every year there's something. So even if that did happen, he's not going to get the benefit of the doubt. And Devin Booker, who is one of my least favorite players, who plays for my favorite team, is just so unlikable and like just deserved everything he got because he was talking so much shit and he thinks he's so much better than he is.
Yeah.
And he
Pamphlet.
as Ben Golliver calls him, Pamphlet. And he deserves that nickname. He's just really, I don't understand how people can like that guy. I don't see any redeeming qualities. I mean, we've talked about it ad nauseum. I think we talked about it last podcast, but anyways, I think their door has closed and it's sad, but now, cause Aiden wants out. He's going to probably
there was
get
a big
traded.
Falling out there at the end with Aiden, it seemed like.
I know. Yeah. I mean, usually well-liked and soft-spoken, Monty Williams did not seem happy with Aiden.
No, he did not. And like you're saying, that's exactly the point. Like, this is not the coach who just blows up all the time, right? Like the guy who never blows up, who's never angry to say something like that gets people to listen. I want to go back to something you said though, because I would make a distinction, right? And maybe this is the distinction because this is not your characterization, but I do think I do know what you're saying when it comes to like people having fatigue with like kind of being overly reliant on the 3-pointer. I think there's a big difference between the way that the Morey teams do it, where it's like James Harden dribbles for 16 seconds, then he passes on the wing to either Luis Scola or Eric Gordon. There's a big difference between that and being like
You're
completely
going way back to
stationary.
Yao Ming.
Yeah, sorry.
Right?
Yeah, too far. There's a big difference between that way to play the 3-ball game and the way that the Warriors play it, where
Yeah.
Klay and Steph and someone like Jordan Poole, they handle the ball a lot. They step into their shot. They get their own shot. They take like circus shots. I mean, it's been said a million times, but like Steph takes shots that we feel like we probably took in our driveways growing up, and there's not a ton of NBA players where you look at that and it looks like that.
Yeah, he even shoots like a kid. He even shoots.
He does.
Yeah,
He's got that low release, which I'm big on that team low release over here, right? Which made it easy for my shot to get blocked.
I'm team shoulder cannon personally, but
yeah,
whatever.
Some of this, no, but so and Klay too. Klay doesn't have the handles obviously that Steph or Poole or someone like Gary Payton does, but he's not a statue who's ready to shoot all the time. The way he is able to kind of dribble. And again, I just am in awe always of Klay's quick release. Like it's like the ball is out of his hands so fast. And yeah, when he goes 6 for 21, you kind of want to say, hey man, like maybe like you gather yourself a little bit. But then he'll have one of those games like he had in game 4, game 5, where it's just so unbelievable. And that has to be sort of scouting and practice where it's like, Klay being 6'7", 6'8", you shoot that ball before the defender can even get into their stance or do anything. And I really cannot overstate how much different it is than watching the Morey Rockets shoot 53s. Because to me, I like the 3-ball, but those James Harden Rockets teams did manage to somehow make 3-point based offenses look monotonous, which is kind of hard to do. And
James Harden's fault.
Yeah, well,
that
true.
Fucking beard.
And of course, then he goes to Philly, and they're doing the same thing in Philly. Yeah. But so, I do think that is really a huge distinguishing factor between the Warriors and other teams that shoot 53s a game. It's just like the aesthetics of their star players. Here's my other thing.
Really fast, one quick aside on Klay.
Please, yeah.
So just to actually give the listener some stats.
Stats? Empirical data?
Oh my God. Fine. So he shot 38.5% from 3 during the playoffs. So at 19 points a game, only about 43% from the field. So not great shooting from the field overall. Probably should be up closer to 45%, or even higher. But 38.5 is pretty good. And you're right, he had those blow up games. And he had in some of the closeout games, he had great games too, like in the Memphis closeout game and in the Dallas closeout game. He was like, game 6 Klay basically in those games. So but please continue.
Well, so what I was going to say, I'll go ahead. 2 things I want to say. First would be what I want next year. It doesn't mean I'm going to get it, Ben, but what I would like, something that I feel like we haven't seen that needs to happen is Warriors versus Bucks in the finals.
Oh, yeah. And I thought we were getting that this year, honestly.
As did I. That was my finals pick. And
it hadn't been for Middleton.
If it hadn't been for Middleton, it does seem very, very possible, plausible, even likely that we would have gotten that. But I would love to see this Warriors core with Giannis still in his prime. I just think that would be a fantastic kind of final. So that is kind of the unturned stone in terms of what the Warriors are involved with here that I would like to see.
Yeah.
The other thing
they have nobody who can guard Giannis, by the way.
No, I mean
Giannis cannot guard Giannis.
And
this iteration of Draymond and this iteration of Giannis. Yeah. And there was a period earlier in Giannis's career where Draymond might have been able to guard him, but maybe I'm wrong.
I don't think you're wrong, and I do think it would be incredible television to watch slightly over the hill Draymond try and talk shit against Giannis as Giannis just absolutely demolishes him, which, is to an extent kind of what happened to Draymond against Jokic in the first round. Because Draymond talked a lot of shit against Jokic, but Jokic still put up some pretty gaudy stat lines. Other
Oh
thing I want to
man,
mention though,
did
and,
he
and I
ever?
think if we can kind of go through this, it's like, you look at the improbability of the Warriors run, and you're starting in 15. They're kind of really only coming up. I know there's a lot of people who say that, well, Love and Kyrie were hurt in that 2015 series. I just think the Warriors were better, and I think they were going to win
There's
that
always some
series.
kind of injury
Yeah, exactly. I think they were going
asterisks.
to win that series,
Always.
and I think they were better. I think they were probably better in 2016. For LeBron to get the title for Cleveland was cool, but if Draymond doesn't get suspended, does the 73 win team
Yep.
win? I think it's
Yep.
very possible, but let's take that aside for a second. Just go by the titles. So 2015, America's kind of introduced to the Warriors. It's this really fun, um, very different brand. You're really getting the emergence of Curry and Klay and the way that they changed the game. You've got Phil Jackson firing off those terrible tweets about how, like, how's it? Remember he said, "How's it going?" About the 3-pointers. Yikes! Did that guy take a giant L in the
I
last 7 years?
remember.
Phil Jackson. Yikes! But that's kind of the start, and so there's not that. I don't know that there's you. It's not like they climbed this huge hill to get there. Yes.
Yeah.
They then respond to losing the finals to the Cavs in 7 by signing Kevin Durant, one of the best players in the world, and then going on this like ruthless, unstoppable run for 2 seasons where they're just a machine. And you know, LeBron's Cavs were just completely overmatched in both years. There was no scenario really where they were ever going to beat them. It was cool to see for like a game. Watching it for like an entire postseason, I felt like there was a joylessness to it, but it was incredible to watch. I mean, it's one of the best. That 2017 Warriors team is one of the best
Oh
basketball
man.
teams I'll ever see.
So
And then
good.
18, of course, they run it back, and like LeBron is like playing with J.R. Smith, and he's just sort of like got these like corn husk dolls for teammates essentially, and they're just getting their asses kicked, and
Yeah.
the Warriors just like mow them down. Yeah. Uh, so those are their 3 titles coming into this. And that is why, Ben, I think, if Curry and Thompson and Dray are on a podcast, if they go on Draymond's podcast 10 years from now and they get a couple of bottles of vino in them, they will say, at least to date, to this point, which is June of 2022, this title was the most satisfying
Oh, for
because it
sure.
wasn't with Durant, it wasn't their first one, and it really did look like, we texted about it, and this was on some of our other threads as well. The Celtics, we've talked almost none about the Celtics, which is by design. No one cares about the Celtics, but the
Wow.
Celtics made the Warriors look old in those first 3 games, and it
Yeah.
really did. I mean, I don't want to go all Bill Simmons on you. I was in Boston uh, on the day of Game 4, and we were staying kind of adjacent to downtown. There's a bunch of jerseys walking around. Give the
Yeah.
whole Simmons. You could just feel it in the city. People could feel it. They could smell it, or whatever he would
People
say.
were, you could
Right?
smell it. People were probably
Everyone was
drinking,
talking. Everyone was talking illegal seafood or whatever. Right? But
drinking
so
those hazy IPAs,
yeah,
getting
exactly. uh,
blotto,
Drinking giant hazy IPAs, dipping their lobster meat directly into the those
screaming at their girlfriends.
Sully, Gully, Finney.
Yes. Any
Anyway,
stereotype you want to throw out there, it's all
yeah, sorry,
happening.
sorry, apologies to Boston.
No,
But
no.
so
Funny.
but I do think that it looked like they had been they had sort of been knocked back. And in that sense, they got knocked back by Toronto 3 years ago in 2019, which of course was their last time on this stage. But the big difference there is that they just lost 2 of their 3 best players in the last 2 games. I mean, look, those
Yeah.
Raptors fans can spin it any way they want. A healthy Durant and a healthy Klay, like that's a
Oh,
completely different
no,
series.
no chance.
Yeah,
Sorry.
and
Sorry,
so
Raptors fans.
yeah,
No, no shot.
the termites. Yeah, but so I do think this was sort of it looked like that Toronto series did in a sense after 3 games, except in this case there were no catastrophic injuries and they just punched back. And doing it without Durant, doing it when they all are in their 30s, right? As I mentioned, Warriors official team of guys in their 30s who like to pretend like they still got it, right? Which I think is why certain old millennials in our target range really had an affinity for Golden State beyond their playing style. Just the fact that it's some old dudes who are playing against guys born in 1998. I think all of that coalesces been to really make this the most satisfying title for this group, and we can kind of talk at length or even in an abridged way about how these guys have changed the game. But it really is sort of the culminating point, not just for Steph, but for this trio, for this troika of guys who have kind of come in together. And if they never win again, I think that they will be content knowing that they got this title after Durant left, after these two awful injuries that Klay suffered, after a lot of uncertainty, being literally in the lottery, right? Being in the NBA lottery. It's easy to kind of look in the rearview mirror and think, well, when they got back, they were always going to make a run. I don't know that anyone thought that in between the summer of 2019 and probably even as late as like March of this year. This just was not an inevitability. And I think all of that will kind of pair and combine to make this the kind of most gratifying title for these guys. So those were the kind of things I wanted to say about this.
Well, no, I agree with you. I mean, I think that any downplaying of the fact that this is without Kevin Durant is just kind of silly. It's like it goes against human nature. I mean, I almost said Kevin Garnett, like a mix of Garnett and Durant.
Mm-hmm.
Those titles were so dominant, and it was unfair. I mean, Kevin Durant going to the Golden State Warriors was a middle finger to the basketball gods, just plain and simple. And the Defiance ended up yielding 2 titles. It all worked out, but you've seen what's happened. The basketball gods always get their revenge. You're seeing what's happened right now in Brooklyn. Okay. Listen, I'm not religious, but I do believe in the basketball gods. Okay. What do you want? What do you want?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So he's getting his comeuppance, sadly, because he's a great player and he seems like an okay dude. But yeah,
not a great evaluator of who to align himself with, though.
Indeed. I just think it's so satisfying to see them win without him at the beginning and then win without him again after so many people said it was only because of him that they won those other titles, which I think you're right. I mean, I think it's been said, but I think without him, they would have beat LeBron that first title with Durant. Without Durant, they would have probably won that. The next one, who knows? I don't know. I think that team, that Cavs team wasn't that great either, really.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an argument to be made they could have won both those titles without Durant. But yeah, obviously he made them like a juggernaut. And I mean, it's just fun to see them back running that, as we talked about, that movement offense, everyone sharing the ball, not a lot of stoppages. Again, it's kind of like the 2014 Spurs, who I love watching that team play. It was just a joy to watch. They carved up LeBron as well. That Miami Heat team that, kind of made themselves into a villain, sadly.
Yeah. Well, they got the Spurs the year before, and then the Spurs spent all
trying to leave that part
season
out,
stewing about it.
Yeah.
Well, no, but I mean, I think
and Duncan
I think
missed the layup.
It's an important
it's
an important prologue just because you could make an argument that the Spurs should have won that series too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If not for that Ray Allen 3-pointer.
Totally. And like that 2016 title you mentioned with LeBron, that was really close to them. Obviously they came back from 3-1. That was an amazing series, but they could have won that series. So they've left some titles on the table, I feel like, possibly. But I can't wait to see what happens with their team. And my heart wants them to keep winning. I'm just a little concerned about some of these returning superstars, like, Jamal Murray for Denver. Like, that team was really good with Jamal Murray. And if they can make maybe another move.
I agree.
And
MPJ and Murray coming back could potentially get them into the mix.
Yeah. And like, you mentioned it, he torched Draymond. I mean,
Yeah.
Looney can't guard Jokic. So if you have Jamal Murray and MPJ firing on all cylinders, like raining threes, and you have Jokic spraying out to those guys, I don't know what I mean. They could beat the Warriors in a series. I truly believe that. But your point is
They've
also
got to become a much better defensive team, though.
yeah, that's true. And Aaron Gordon didn't look good in the playoffs, really. I mean, except for the final game and a half, I think, against the Warriors. But we'll see what happens, man. Like it's going to be a great season next year. I mean, Kawhi returning,
Yep.
the Terminator.
What do you think about the East? Or sorry, go ahead.
Oh no. The East.
Like what do you prognosticate for the East next year? Who do you think? Like if you had to pick, let's look into our crystal balls. Let's put on our capes. All right, I'm gonna put my cape
lights
on.
Off.
Yeah,
lighting some incense.
Yeah, burn a little bit of sage. Right. Up. The flame is too big. Smoke alarm's going off.
I'm burning alive. I'm burning alive.
Yeah. It's like old timey fumbling.
Okay,
so who Eastern Conference Finals, 11 months away.
Got to go Milwaukee because the
disappointing. Who do you think they beat?
I think they beat the Celtics.
I agree. Milwaukee over Boston for me as well.
And that's kind of an easy, why? I think the main reason is Ime and Udoka. His coaching was a revelation, and he unlocked. I actually disagree with people who say Marcus Smart was deep pants in the finals. He was still really good on defense. He still was effective at times. His shot was off. When he's shooting badly, he's it's really bad,
Yeah.
And Jason Tatum also shit the bed. No offense to him.
I thought Smart was pretty good at a lot of games for what
I think he was good too. It's just that he had to guard Steph Curry and he had to run the offense, and his shot kind of suffered.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the formula they found was really effective. It's and they're going to be 1 year more seasoned. I think they're going to come back with a vengeance. I think Tatum's going to do some soul searching. Brown's going to practice his ball handling, and they're going to come back. And the Milwaukee has so much motivation to come back. They realize what that Middleton injury did to their season. It's they would have beat the Celtics. I hate to break it to the Celtics fans. Sorry, put down your hazy IPA, look me right in the eye, and tell me you don't think that the Bucks would have beaten your Celtics. I mean, I just don't believe it. I think the Bucks, they took them to 7 games, and they got spanked
without their second best player.
Yeah, and their closer, Giannis was amazing. Still, he destroyed the Celtics.
Sure.
He didn't shoot the ball amazingly well some of those games, but that's okay.
There was a crazy load on his shoulders.
Oh, for sure. And
with Middleton out,
Drew Holiday was doing more than he should be doing. He was shooting a pretty bad percentage too, but the defense was awesome. And I think they're gonna. They might have another little move to make. Maybe getting another ball handler or something, who can also play some defense.
They could certainly use a little bit of us. They could use some supplemental young talent there for sure. For sure. Yeah. Connaughton and Grayson and when they were looking for guys to kind of match the energy and the youth of players Tatum and Brown are
Peyton Pritchard
players.
Can you match his energy?
Sure. Peyton
Grayson
Pritchard
Allen, you fell off a cliff after that Bulls series, man.
Yeah.
Bless your heart, but Jesus Christ, you broke my heart because I played you in some fantasy matchups, and
he took some wild shots in the finals too. It's I don't know, man.
Bud just kept going back to him, and it was just listen, this guy is not going to play well. He's broken now. Just
wait, hold on.
Connaughton 48 minutes.
Oh, Grayson Allen or Connaughton?
I was talking about Grayson Allen.
You said Peyton Pritchard.
Well, I was originally saying that they couldn't best Peyton Pritchard. Their minutes lined up, and they
I was getting my white players confused.
Well, it's easy to confuse them. They all look the same. No, I'm kidding. But Connaughton actually last year's playoffs was awesome. Like he couldn't miss
He
from
was.
three.
Yep.
He was great. I mean, he's got crazy long arms.
He's a great rebounder for a guard.
Yeah, he's
We
a great
talked about that.
rebounder. And this year he just went completely cold from three in the last, at least in the last game, maybe the last two games. And then it coincided with Grant fucking Williams just turning into Fred VanVleet from 2 years ago
Game
or 3 years
7,
ago.
Grant Williams.
Yeah, and like if he hadn't hit all those threes, they probably still would have won. But it was just like the Bucks needed Grayson Allen to like erupt.
Yes, and he didn't do it.
And he didn't do it, or Connaughton. Like if Connaughton, like there were some points where if he had just hit a few threes and kept him kind of in it, it could have gone into the fourth quarter. And then who knows what would have happened? But you know they couldn't hit any shots. They don't
even need someone like Poole or Wiggins. I think they need someone like Peyton, right? They need their version of Gary. They just need bench energy, guy who can play defense, who just like fresh legs. Because when it's Middleton and Drew and like giant Brook Lopez and Giannis, and it's just like lumbering guys, and they start to get bogged down in the half court.
Bogdanovich.
There you go. They start to get stagnant, and I don't know. I think they could use it. Okay, let's go to the West. Who, if you had to pick right now, what's your West? Can I give you mine first?
Yeah, go ahead and give me yours.
All right, so I'm trying to speak this into existence. I'm trying to speak the Warriors Bucks finals into existence, a la LeVar Ball. I will say I feel like we are, speaking of basketball gods, I feel like we just need another spring of Warriors Grizzlies shit talking. So I'm gonna say Warriors versus Grizzlies in the Western Conference Finals, and I'm gonna take the Warriors. So I think both of those. I think both the finals next year, conference finals, will be rematches of conference semifinals matchups this year.
I like it. Okay, I'm gonna go off the grid here a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that
Ben, you can't pick the Kings. Come on.
That'd be hilarious.
Tyrese Halliburton.
If Sabonis just leveled up and became like a Giannis level, a Jokic level producer, that would be crazy.
I like Davion Mitchell. He's fun.
He is fun. And to be honest, Sabonis is like a crazy offensive force. Like I love watching him play personally. And he just needs to be able to shoot threes a little bit, and he's going to unlock a lot of different stuff for him. He is kind of lumbering and slow, and he's, I would say, probably god awful on defense, just based on what I've seen. I'm just Benny Sixpack over here.
Wait, did Halliburton get traded? He did, or did he not? Oh, he got traded to the Pacers.
He basically got traded for Sabonis.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Shit. Why did they? Okay. Well,
they tried to unload.
They have like Fox.
Yeah, they tried to unload Fox.
Uh-huh.
It's been reported that they tried desperately to unload Fox. Then he found out about it. They met with him, and like when they realized they couldn't trade him, they're like, "No, we weren't trying to trade you. We love you." Yeah. And they traded Halliburton because it was basically like, we got to get rid of one of these guys. We have 3 point guards on our team right now. So they traded Halliburton for Sabonis, and they were fun to watch. Fox and Sabonis at the end of the year, they put up some nice games, good stats. Sabonis got hurt, kind of messed things up a little bit, but they were never like a threat to make the playoffs.
Did Hield get traded in that deal as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Hield, he might be an expiring, I don't know, but he might have one more year left. We'll see. But
oh man,
he could get traded. Honestly,
I loved that guy in college. I thought he would be a better pro. I was wrong on that.
Talk about a guy who can get white hot though. I mean, he can still get like crazy hot.
Yes,
and he's a pretty good defender. I mean, from what I've seen, once again, not an expert, but just regular guy.
Shout out to the people who have stuck it out for an hour in terms of Warriors gushing and legacy talk, only to get to a Kings Pacers trade.
Exactly. Well, let me get to my picks. Okay.
Yes,
without further ado, I think the Clippers are going to do something. I think they're going to. Ballmer is a sweaty, overweight, extremely rich man. Uh-huh. He wants to win, and he wants it now. And if you're not going to give it to him, then he's going to get it himself.
He wants to grab
Um,
other men's crotches.
he likes to grab people's thighs really
Yeah.
close to their genitalia, and that's that's what he likes to do. He's got a lot of money. He pays people to let him do that.
guys, this is celebrating, right? Is
You
this how
saw
you
it.
celebrate?
You can go look up the
Come
GIF
on, guys.
online.
It's
Look
just
up on
guys doing
YouTube.
celebrations.
Balmer grabbing thighs, and you will see what
Mhm.
I'm talking about. And it's really weird. But he pays those guys probably like $5 million each a year to just sit beside him at games, and he grabs their thighs. Anyway, so
Oh God.
I think they're going to make a move, and I think they're going to get to the Western Conference Finals.
Wow.
Kawhi's coming back. He's been basically sitting out for like a year and a half, doing
Mhm.
God knows what. I presume resting.
He's been charging his head on a like a station.
I think I was reading he got like one of those new Tesla electric batteries put in his back,
Yeah.
so he can go longer now, and he's got like an oil change and everything. He's ready to go, dude. And he looks, actually, he doesn't look like, he looks exactly like he always has.
I think he can probably play more. He can help his load management if they just plug him in over on the bench at halftime, right? Get sort of like a Tesla charging station, put it in. God, I mean, it was crypto. What the fuck is it going to be crypto for much longer? Whatever it's going to be called. Whatever that arena is called. Put it in. Put that charging station over on the bench. So you have the Clippers. Wow.
I'm going
because
with
you
the
don't
Clippers.
strike me as a Clippers enthusiast.
I hate the Clippers. I don't like the Clippers, but I'm trying to be different, right? You're being Shannon Sharp. I'm being Skip Bayless here.
Okay. All right.
Skip.
Skip.
So I think it's gonna be. I'm going Clippers Nuggets. It's gonna be a rematch of the second round series in which the Clippers shit the bed in the bubble. I believe that was second round. And
it was.
Because then the Nuggets played the Lakers, and then they got whooped. But so that's kind of my off the wall Western Conference Finals. It seems insane, but with all the players coming back, I just feel like they're going to come back with a vengeance. If Kawhi gets hurt again, that'll just be ridiculous. I mean, this guy gets hurt. Like, it seems like it's the Kawhi healthy year. It's like kind of goes like a wave. And I think this is going to be Kawhi healthy year. I think Paul George will get hurt for part of the year, but he'll come back for the playoffs. I think they'll make some kind of upgrade. I don't know what it is. Maybe they somehow get DeAndre Ayton. Maybe they somehow get Kyrie. There's been chatter, they could get Kyrie. I've heard that, yeah. If that happens, then it's going to be like, here we go. And they have a lot of good young players. I mean, Terrence Mann, I like. Luke Kennard, he's not really a young player, but he's like a great shooter. He's like a homeless man's Klay Thompson. They got Brandon Boston is a really good young player they have. He could step up. Reggie Jackson is still there. He might get traded if they get Kyrie, but he's okay.
Reggie Jackson, still a guy on the team.
Yeah. So I don't know. And I think we talked about the Nuggets. They have some returning players. So that's my kind of off the wall pick. If you, to borrow a phrase, if you put like a knife to my neck, I'm not going to say gun to my head. If you put like a bazooka to my face and said, make a pick, I'm going to go with Warriors. I'll go with Warriors. I probably might even go with what you said, Warriors, Memphis. No. I would go Warriors, Suns if I had a bazooka to my face.
If you stood over me and you were in a courtyard, I was in a courtyard, and you stood over me on a floor above with a giant anvil. Right.
These scenarios, I mean, it's just like gun to my head. Like, what would you? It's just so silly. It's like we never like just imagining like that play out. Like who's gonna win the series, motherfucker? The fucking Lakers or the Clippers? Gun to your head. Answer the question. It's just like the way that guy's mind works is just whatever.
If we were both in chainmail and running at each other full speed. Oh, all right. So my official pick is going to be Clippers Nuggets. Okay. And what would your finals pick be?
Finals pick would be Nuggets, Bucks.
Mhm.
So you're gonna have Jokic is
Jokic
gonna be
versus
sitting
Giannis.
in Sombor, hearing all the people make fun of him about how he's not a real MVP,
Mhm.
and he's just gonna be like, frowning, looking
Mhm.
at himself in the mirror, just like, okay,
Doing farm work,
okay,
lifting
yeah,
goats.
eating just these goulash type
Yeah.
dishes one after another.
You do not make fun. I show you next year. You want to make fun of Jokic, Jokic show you. He come back and he destroy you.
So I foresee like a 7-game series against the Warriors where the scores are
man.
like 130 to 125 every game. And you just have like Jamal Murray unlocking what he did in the bubble, like, putting like 40 points on the Warriors. Steph coming back with 35. Draymond gets exposed slightly. He's podcasting after every game. He's saying that he's gonna unlock Jokic. He's gonna unlock Jokic. Jokic is averaging like 39 points a game, just destroying him. He never unlocks Jokic.
Yeah. He will unlock him in the sense that he allows him to play well.
Exactly. Good point.
So you like Bucks over Nuggets?
Bucks over Nuggets.
Okay.
I think Giannis is going to return to his glory, to where he belongs, which is, at the top of the league. And it really does make me happy how everybody is kind of just now is saying that Giannis is the best player in the league. It's so obvious, but it makes me happy to see that because he's just a nice guy, man. He just does it the right way. God bless him. I love that guy.
There's and it's a really good recipe for him too, because he does have that universal respect, and yet he's also got this chip on his shoulder and this motivation that doesn't need to be manufactured in the form of this loss to Boston. One other thing I want to mention about the Warriors, I would be remiss if I didn't mention this. I feel like, and I've heard this said, and I've read this in places, and I don't agree with it, but it is sort of out there. The idea that like in this run since 2015, one criticism of the Warriors has been that they are front runners. Like they're guys who are going to dance around and talk shit and do all these like TikTok ready moves when they're up 15. But when the going gets tough and when they're getting their asses kicked, they don't. They can be. I mean, Draymond is really the guy to turn on with this, but they fold easily, or they can be sore losers, especially Draymond, etc.
Yeah.
I think apart from
respect us, we're champions.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Don't make fun of us. Like, we can make fun of you, but not us.
Yes.
You make fun of us.
I mean, look, I think that, I think when someone makes the accusation that a team or a player is a front runner, wrapped up in that criticism is the idea that they're soft and that they can kind of, things are great when they're going great, and the moment that there's adversity, they just sort of fold. I think that is just, if you look at this broader view of this run, I just don't think that's a very fair criticism. And I think what it does is it ignores all the times that the Warriors have been completely ruthless on the road and in road games. I think it's really easy to see the way they could get a front runner reputation where like Steph hits 2 threes and the crowd starts feeling it, and then all of a sudden they're on like a 15-0 run, and we've all seen that or 15-2 run. I mean, they do that like once a series at least, or sometimes once a game when they're playing at home.
They just put teams away well. I mean,
exactly, and that is synonymous with the Warriors run, but I think it gets linked too much to their home games. I mean, we saw them go on an outrageous 21-0 run in Boston in that closeout game, but you look back and you think about, they closed out Cleveland in game 6 in 2015 in Cleveland. Klay had that unbelievable game 6 performance in Oklahoma City in 2016, right? I think they lost one game in total in the playoffs in 2017.
They came back from 2-1 this year.
Yeah. They had that game when they were down 2-1 in Toronto, where their backs were against the wall, and they beat them, right? They beat them in Toronto, much the same. Actually, weird parallel there. between Game 4 in Toronto and Game 4 in Boston this year, I would say.
Mhm.
And they did it, of course, more than any time this year, where it was like you can't. I mean, anybody who was starting to favor Boston in the series thought, well, they got their game in San Francisco, and so now all they got to do is win their home games, and they win. And the Warriors turn around and they win 2 of the 3 games that are played in Boston in just completely ruthless sorts of ways. And I think
Yeah.
that it's just a reminder that this is kind of a foolproof, fail-safe kind of basketball where, yeah, a lot of times it is true. I would guess if you looked at the stats, and who are we to look at the stats? But if you did look at the stats, there are more 10-0 runs in the Chase Center or in the old Oracle. But they go on those runs on the road too. And they do it in ways where Klay and Steph are just like cold, like they're nice, kind of easygoing, goofy guys. Klay just continually being cousin Greg in the parade, just like knocking women over and like just saying the most outrageous
God.
shit, losing his hat, losing it, like dancing like Michael Jackson with the putting down the trophy.
Yeah.
Just all like I can't get enough Klay content.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. Did you think
Yeah.
any of that went overboard, or do you think it was like, because I saw a lot of people saying like, this is why this team is so insufferable.
No, I
They
don't
just,
know.
I personally didn't have a problem with it.
I
But
look, I don't think that any guys who have been grinding like that in the playoffs for months, and then they probably don't eat much in the morning, and then they start drinking at champagne, and they're just like hammered by the.
yeah,
I mean, it's essentially the closest thing we will ever see, Ben, to professional athletes at the lake house. I would suggest these title parades, and like they can just do whatever they want. I mean, I found it obnoxious when like Kobe and Shaq did it. I think it's
yeah,
one of the worst.
yeah.
But
I think it's the personalities that kind of
yeah, I
set it
enjoyed it.
apart.
But no, I do think that like thinking of these guys as nice guys, the Splash Brothers as sort of nice guys, it really masks and undersells how ruthless they are. And I think there's nowhere
Hmm.
where that's ever been more apparent than the last 2 victories in Boston in Game 4 and Game 6. I mean, if you really want that kind of snapshot about how great they can be apart from their home court advantage, those are the 2 games. You know, if in a time capsule, those are 2 games you can point to say,
Yeah,
this is why this team has been able to sustain its success the way it has.
yeah, and just to wrap it up, like those, what you said, the Celtics crowd just vicious,
Yeah.
like just so mean and like cruel and like, you can't think of a worse kind of away game in the
Yeah.
playoffs and going into
Hostility.
Boston. Yeah, it's so hostile, and they went in there and they won some key games and they pulled it out, and it was a joy to watch. I'm kind of hung over from the playoffs. I'm like turning on the TV every day at like 4 or 5 o'clock. Like,
Yeah.
where's the game? What's going on?
I was gonna say, can I give you a take that I don't earnestly believe, but if you told me that it was allowed, I would I'd be like, yeah, that I'd be
Throw
cool
it
with
at
that.
me.
So my
Throw it at
take,
me.
okay, this is an all-timer
And
dumb
then we
take,
can
but
bow
my
out.
my take, one of my sort of half-assed takes is they should just play all 7 games in a series regardless of what the series score is. So like I think they should have just played Game 7, even though the Warriors had already won. Like I want to like show me Steph shooting 70-foot shots. I want to see like Moses Moody and Jonathan Kuminga running around out there getting some run, right? Like maybe in the third
Hilarious.
quarter, Draymond and Klay are drinking champagne on the bench and just heckling the shit out of the Celtics players. I
That
don't
would
know.
be
I just think it
so
would.
mean and
I
cruel
think
and
it would be
funny.
fun, and also we don't get basketball again for 4 months. So like I
Yeah.
would have absolutely watched a game where Mike Breen charges all the way goes up to 11 on Sunday night. He like opens with the Warriors have already won the series, but we're getting
Bang!
Game 7 in San
Yeah.
Francisco anyway.
That'd be so funny. Yeah, I co-sign that. And yeah, maybe we can fill the void with a little
Ooh,
summer league ball, coming
yeah,
up here. So
yeah,
we'll see, my friend, but I got to run, unfortunately, and it's been
indeed.
it's been a pleasure talking to you.
The next time we talk, we will likely be deep in the jungles of fantasy football season.
Oh, I know.
So many
I
moves.
I got a
You know?
guy who I've been
Tyreek Hill's on the
eyeing.
Dolphins now. Did you know that?
I know,
I
and
just forgot about that, but I
he's
remembered
gonna.
that today.
I'm so intrigued by what he does this year. I don't think I'll be drafting him or
Yeah.
buying him in our auction, but
Your guy Mike McD is running that team.
yeah, that's what gives me pause. I'm like, if he could probably unlock something. I think if they run him a lot, then he could be like a Debo Samuel-esque in terms of his stat line. I mean, you can't give him the ball as many times as Debo,
Yeah.
but like, I don't know. We'll see what his usage is because they also have
Yeah.
what's his name?
Well, so they signed Mostert and Chase Edmonds, and they have Jalen Waddle. They're going to give all those guys 3 touches a game.
So much
So
speed.
like a fantasy nightmare.
Yeah, it's kind of a nightmare. And like Tua, I don't believe in him. So we'll see what happens. But there's a lot of storylines. Yeah, we'll definitely reconvene. We'll get old Kempster on the line, and we'll discuss some stuff for sure.
Indeed.
I plan
Congrats to the Warriors.
Yeah, congrats on the Warriors.
Go ahead.
No, I said yeah, we'll try to do more fantasy football stuff. Like at least I would like to do one show each week on the Tuesday, that Tuesday. I know you won't always be able to make it because you're going to be, you'll be in the throes of your school season, but whenever you can come on, we'll probably try to record like, Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
To get it out fast.
We could also do an extremely, extremely late version of the Gaudys in like August or something.
Oh,
like the Gaudys from last year. Actually, that might be a good prep into this season, to be fair.
Or we could do like a Gaudy's preview. Preview
Gaudy.
Yeah. Like give
Gaudy
out
forecast.
Gaudy forecast. Yeah. We'll sort it out. But my friend,
indeed,
it's been a pleasure. And until next time, I'll see you.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye, sir.
Goodbye.
Dynasties.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Gaudy stats. Gaudy stats.